Welcome everyone, it's Michael DeHaan from Care to Grow, and I've got Nicole Heales with me, so from Nicole Heales Financial. How are you, Nicole?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for being a part of this series. So it's our Women's Empowerment series, and I reached out to Nicole probably a few months ago, and I want to share why. So I stalked you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I looked, and a lot of this work that you're doing sort of resonated with me quite closely around supporting women. So uh, on your LinkedIn, it's financial advice, women to women, which I
Yeah,
thought was empowering in a sense, helping women find themselves.
yeah,
And you talk about your own freedom, so sort of building what you want in your life, and freedom is just so important. So that was, I suppose, a lot of that wording that sort of resonated.
yeah, right.
Dug a bit deeper, and I saw that you're the top 50 most influential advisors in 2018, 2020. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, I've done it in the last 4 years, which is pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah.
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 I
And
don't think I
obviously,
should push my luck for the fifth year in a row.
and you're the AFA Female Excellence in Advice finalist. So
Yes.
great work. You're obviously doing amazing
Yeah, thanks.
sort of financial planning and mortgage space. So
Yeah. Hmm.
what I'd like to do, I suppose, is just let people know a bit about yourself. So yeah, your history and so they can sort of connect with you. So
Sure. Do you want me to have to just talk about me?
yeah, I'd love you to.
Okay. Well, I'm a single woman, and I don't like to use that word because people have different connotations on that. An independent woman. I like my space and I like my freedom. So that's a choice and I love it. So and with that choice, you sort of got to get a bit real about, okay, well, if you're single, you've got one income. Now, that's not to say people who are in couples don't end up single, but
Yeah.
sort of, when you've sort of got that mindset, you're going, okay, well, I love traveling. I love having a good lifestyle. I like having choices and all this sort of stuff. So I had to work out, how does that work and how do I do that as a single person? So when I was about 35, I was a public servant. I'm from Canberra, so I was a public servant for 10 years. So don't hold that against me. But I moved to Melbourne, and I worked in the public service there for a little while. I ended up working in a law firm for a while. I was at 10 years in public service, then 12 years in top tier law firms. Didn't love that. I mean, I was doing trademark attorney stuff, so that was a bit dry. That's how I was in the public service as a trademark examiner, and so it was just one of those things. It was just a progression that I didn't really have any saying. It just happened. And then I got to a point in my life when I was about 35, and I went, well, I can't be doing this for another 30 years. This is very boring. And anyway, at the same time, you sort of get real at that age, and you're going, oh, well, I've got to get all organized with my money. So I started going to seminars and going to, trying to think about how I could use my money a bit better, and reading books on it and things like that. And it was at the time when they were changing the rules that the people who were on the stage had to have a license. And, it was actually, I was in front of somebody on the stage, and they said, I can't do this anymore after next year because I've got to be a licensed financial planner to give this kind of advice.
Right.
I went, oh, is that a job? That was it. And I basically, that was how I did it. And I basically went, oh, that sounds interesting. And I just walked myself down to the Australian Institute of Securities, it was called at that point, and signed up for the diploma, the advanced diploma. Then I did then I got a job in the industry. Then I got my master's, and it's been rolling on ever since. But I was literally I just walked into it, and I just didn't know what the industry was like. But I just thought, if I can learn about money myself, and then I can teach other people about it, it means that I can have a better life, and I can also help other people with having a better life. And so that's kind of how it worked. And it was really just by osmosis. It was just one foot in front of the other. And now that I've been in the industry now for 15 years, yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, I didn't get into the industry until I was 40. So I had a transition period of thinking that this is what I need to do. And then I did all my studies before I moved across, because I had a mortgage, and, being single, I couldn't just go, from a decent income down to a $30,000 or $40,000 base income. I couldn't do that. So I had to hit the ground run. So I had to get all my qualifications up. And having said that, the first job I had, they thought I was an idiot because I'd done my advanced diploma, and they said to me, this is my first take on the industry. Oh, you're an idiot. You could have done a 2-week course. I just went, no, I'm dealing with people's money. So
Wow, you took it quite, yeah.
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. Because I thought, well, I'm talking about somebody's choices and their
Yeah.
lifestyle and their retirement planning and all this sort of stuff. I need to know what, and probably that female, conversation that we just had, which is about, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was too nervous about not knowing. I didn't know where the gaps were, and I needed to fill the gaps before I could start talking to people about it. And so, yeah, and so I did my master's in 2009, so well before it was required, and that was because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. And then I added mortgage broking onto that, and now my business is, what I can't help my clients with. It's like I've got property advisors, I've got estate planning lawyers, I've got family lawyers, I've got accountants, I've got self-managed super fund specialists, and all this. So whatever I can't help my clients with, and money coaches as well. So I'm sure we can speak about that, but
Yeah.
it's about making sure if somebody comes to me and if they've got enough nous to actually get on the phone, make the call, send an email, get on a newsletter list, then I want to make sure that they are taken care of from the first go, because it's a big step. That first step is a leap of faith. Yeah. And I want to make sure when they get in contact with me that is respected, and I take a lot of responsibility with that. Yeah. I think it's a lovely thing to be able to help someone. So I think it's got to be taken with the respect that it deserves. Yeah.
And I love that. I suppose some feedback. I love that ownership that you talk about. So one, the responsibility and the care, and
yeah, because it is, they're speaking to you, or unless you've got a referral or something like that. People are just, they know they need help. They don't know where to go, and they need to be, rewarded, well, at least thanked and told it's a great thing that you've done for a start. And if I can't help you, I'll put you onto somebody else that can help you, or whatever else. So yeah, no, I think when I first got in the industry, I wasn't female focused. I was just, when you first get a job in anywhere, I suppose you just do what you'd get told to do. And then I just realized it was silly for me not to focus on helping women, because there's not enough advisors out there. I did a research paper with RMIT before the Royal Commission into banking, and there was only 20% female advisors then.
Yes.
Half of them would have been working for the banks, because they would have had their own families and they would have had their own responsibilities, and not being able to take on owning your own business and doing all that. So I don't know what the numbers would be like now, but I reckon it would be a lot less than that. And so if we're not helping, the women, if the women aren't helping the women, then, I think the conversation, I think we just need to be more aware that half of the population, it's not a minority group,
Yes, yeah.
Run households. And also I want to make sure if women are in relationships that they understand that they can't rely on the other person to be the provider. They can't do that, because the reality is that, yes, you could have a fantastic relationship and you could be together for 60 years. My parents have been, but there's also the likelihood that you may not have a relationship that lasts that long, and you might even have three serious relationships in your adult life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very, very, easy to think about. And then you might have children with other, there's all these sort of complications around life now, which wasn't there 50 years ago. And if you're talking to parents or grandparents about what they used to do, well, it was just a different time. So I think I always say you've got to be responsible for your health, and you've got to be responsible for your wealth. No one else is going to take care of that better than you can. And why would they?
That's a great analogy, because I was trying to sort of work out that women focus, and you just, I suppose, shared that around being financially independent.
Yeah.
And really having choices in your life, because that's a lot of the work we're doing, where women, I think, are caught in relationships because I suppose they've got that sort of scarcity, or they're anxious around money and they don't know how to get out of a relationship. So
yeah, absolutely that, and don't understand. They don't understand the power that they have as well, that they can make these choices. But you have to, I just talked about my journey into financial advice. That was very strategic. I had to work out, I couldn't just go, I want to be a financial advisor. I had to put steps in place to move across. So, that's just life. You can't you need to have these plans in place. Sometimes if you're going to leave a relationship, or you're going to go into a relationship, or you're going to have children or things like this, planning and being strategic about those things it might take the spontaneity away from it, but the reality is it just makes it smooths out the ride.
Yeah. And I think for them to speak their truths before they sort of commit to the relationship. So a lot of
Yes.
research I've done is that they repress their feelings and beliefs around money. And because, generally speaking, a lot of women put themselves last, is that they don't tell their truths. So when they sort of start the relationship like that, it tends to follow that same pathway.
Yeah. No, and everybody's a little snowflake, right? Everybody's unique. So you can't expect that your partner has the same idea about money that you do. And they certainly haven't been brought up in the same family. And so all these things, because we don't get taught enough at school, especially about money personality, money management, all this sort of debt management, all these sort of things, you learn by osmosis. And if you haven't been in front of a good person, teacher or mentor or parent or something that's got a grip on it, which is pretty much 90%, just because life was simpler then. You bought a house, you didn't have super. You bought a house, you paid it off, and that was it. It was a farm, a house, or a business. That was it. Stock market, all this sort of stuff. So I think we're in this lovely sort of generation that, yes, we can be a bit more introspective about things. We've got that luxury being, in Australia, and being lucky to be where we are, that we can actually think about that and actually take it, like you do, take away the layers and go, well, where is this all coming from, and where's your values, and what that might be what you thought your values were, but that's actually what your parents' values were, or your partner's values were. What are your values, and what do you want, and how do we fix that? So we're lucky. I think it's the first generation really that have done that, to be honest, And
I think as you said, so they're wanting to sort of live on purpose. So
absolutely.
So they want to understand what that means, and then look at the pathways that's available to them and get the right people around them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the key as well. And living on purpose. And I'm sure COVID this year has been a really good leveler to say to people, well, what is the most important thing for you? What is it? Is it maybe it's not all the overseas holidays. I love traveling overseas, but I could care less about being on a plane at all for the next 3 or 4 years. I don't care. Yeah. But my value, I've realized this year, just to give you a bit more, is, like I said, I bought a house in Adelaide. What I want is I want a dog and a garden and a nice house.
Yeah.
And I've traveled the world. I've spent the last 25, 30 years traveling the world, and I've seen a lot, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to do it again. But what's going to make me the happiest is that. And so that's a big shift from what I thought last. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, because that's, I think that's so important, because people generally say, I need $1 million, or I need a certain amount of money. And then I always ask them, like, why?
Yeah.
And it's around that sort of what's going to bring you joy and freedom and happiness. And that's really the goal.
Yeah. And just a sense of relaxation, whatever it is. But I went through that process, and I just went, that's right. And I'm very content with that now. And I feel very comfortable all of a sudden. So I think hopefully people have sort of drilled down and just got back to the basics. I think that's really important, because I think the other thing about women and money is that what we really want is freedom, but we want security and stability. That's really, really important. We want to know that we'll be okay. We don't have to move house. We don't, if anything goes wrong, we've still got a place to live, and that's the most basic human, need. And that's really where it starts. Yeah. So, I think whereas I find that men sometimes, when you talk, you've been a financial advisor, you've been to all the PD days, you've seen all the graphs. You just get bombarded with economic updates and graphs and things like that, which is all fine. I've never used one in my meeting ever, because it's not relevant. But men are generally more interested in the numbers and the math side of it, and the return side of it. And women, I think, are more interested in the stability, the understanding, the simplicity. I'm all about simplifying everything.
Yes.
Like, simplicity in everything in your life is the most important thing. It's I don't know who said it, but it's elegance in simplicity. I don't know what, I have to work out where I got that quote from.
You can claim it. You can claim it.
Yeah, right.
I
But
heard
it's
it first from you.
yeah, it's the same with money. I mean, everything needs to be simple and everything needs to be in balance. And that's really, if you can have that holistic approach to your life and your money and your what you want, I mean, I think that's where you get as soon as anything gets out of balance, nature, relationships, work versus relaxation, too much food versus not enough food, everyone knows it. Balance is the key. And understanding the balance and understanding why you're doing everything and questioning everything, asking the questions. And I think that's what I want to make sure that my people that get in front of me, that they feel really comfortable to ask any question anytime about anything. And if I can't answer it, I'll find somebody,
Yeah, that's great. And that encourages them to tell their truth.
Absolutely, because the more you talk, the more the people in front of us talk, the more we can understand them. And it's not about us, is it? It's never about us. It's always about them, and it's about understanding what they need and want and helping them, guide them to how can we facilitate that, really.
So I want to ask a question. So
Sure.
the 30-year-old Nicole Heales.
Yes.
What advice would you give her now, sort of reflecting back and talking about freedom and empowerment?
Yep.
What's some tips or advice that you give her now?
I would say that I'm a bit weird. I've always had an eye on the future and an eye on the present. I think balancing both.
Yep.
I think at 30 years old, you do start thinking a little bit more towards the future. But I think if I was going to talk to myself, and I did it anyway, but put money in super, put extra money in super, put an extra 5% or do something like that. Get your debt paid, get real about your money situation, and the more you can get debt reduced, a little bit more money in super, even if it's a tiny amount. I know it's boring, but the reality is it'll make a huge difference to you in the future, but it won't make any difference to you now. Yeah. Also, don't waste money on. Just get your values right. I always say to people, the money you spend is either going to get you further towards your goals or further away from your goals. Now, what are your goals? So, don't waste money on gym memberships that you don't use. Don't waste money on Foxtel that you don't use. Don't buy magazines that are $15 a pop that you never read. Don't look at all the expenses and get them right down. And so for me, I could do that because my focus was to travel. So I always spent less on my day-to-day stuff that didn't give me any real joy. I never spend money on stuff that doesn't give me any joy. Yeah. So find the joy and spend your money there, and keep it in balance. But so I wouldn't waste money during the week, so I could have bigger weekends, or I would not have big weekends, so I could have bigger holidays. So it's about sacrificing. You've got to sacrifice something.
And I think what you just shared with me there is that you've looked at your expenses, what you're paying out, and you're putting a layer of, does that bring me joy?
Yeah, that's right.
You actually say, well, a lot of things that people do doesn't bring them joy. It's just
to me, most of the time, I think people waste a lot of money on stuff that they don't need day to day, and week to week. And it stops them, and then they go on a holiday and they put it on their credit card, and that stresses them out. So it's this, I think it's about working it back from there. And then also what I did at that point when I was 30, I knew that I wasn't particularly happy. Again, I was talking about that, happy with my job. And so what was I going to do? Luckily for me, I had the aha moment. I went, oh, that's what I should be doing. Now, I could have not had that aha moment, and I could still be in the public service, a million years later and hating my life. So I think you've also got to think about realizing and being realistic about the fact that you've got to work for another 35 years.
Yes.
Yeah. Make it something that you enjoy. Yeah. Work it out, whatever that is. I don't know what it's going to be, obviously, if it's for all different people, but find joy in the thing that you do every day as well. And it's not always that easy, but if you can't get a job that gives you joy, find a hobby that gives you joy. Find something that your life, when you're not on holidays, is happy. I mean, there's another quote that I use all the time: don't build a life that you don't need a vacation from, I
wonder how many people can actually say that.
Yeah, well, I mean, for example, for me, what I did when I moved to Melbourne, I used to go out a lot. I used to be a big party girl and, spent too much money on all that sort of stuff, but who cares? I had a ball and it was fun, but, and then I grew up and didn't do it anymore. So, it sort of all fades out away. But I love sailing. So in Melbourne, I can't afford a boat by myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want a boat by myself because you can't sail a boat by yourself. So, unless you're, unless you're really good at it. But so I joined the yacht club and I crew on a boat. So I've done all the regattas all the way up the coast. I've sailed a boat back from Hobart. I didn't do the Sydney to Hobart race because I'm not crazy, but but I bought a boat back from Hobart to Melbourne. I've done I've done the Hamilton Island Race Week. I've done Port Douglas Race. I mean, I've been all up and down the coast and pretty much done all the regattas. And that was for me going, okay, well, how do I make that happen without spending too much money?
Yeah.
And you can make things happen. You just have to think about it differently and just go, well, what is it that makes me happy? And when I travel, I might travel with friends and they love 5-star hotels. It doesn't give me any joy. I don't care about 5-star hotels. I don't want to sit around a pool and spend $25 on a cocktail. I would rather have an apartment that I can make food. I can make breakfast and dinner if I want, go out for lunch. I mean, I wandered the streets, so I'm exhausted by the end of the holiday anyway. So by the end of the day, I've just walked 1,000,000 miles. So all I want to do is put my feet up and, so enjoy the day. So I just work it out. And I have fantastic holidays for about a third of the price of my friends.
Yeah.
So it's always that. It's always, how do I do this with spending less money? Because it's not the money that makes the experience. It's experience.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, I suppose that's the 30-year-old. I mean, I had it intrinsically luckily in my personality type. I don't know how that happened, but it was just kind of thought that way. Yeah, I never got into credit card debt or anything like that. But I always think you should always, maybe the 30-year-old is time's your magic ingredient. Don't waste it.
Yeah.
Time. Yeah.
No, that's
get that back. So money and time are so intrinsically connected that, that's the whole thing. If you can put an extra 5 or 10% or whatever in your super, don't waste the money that you're wasting on stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Put it in your super or pay down your debt or whatever it is. But the time's the magic. And you don't get that time when I'm 55 now, right? So you don't get that time when you're 55. You make the most of it. Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, and there'll be women sort of listening to this interview and saying that they really want to, I suppose, understand a bit more about money and some pathways that might work for them towards financial freedom. Are they able to reach out to you or to have?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, they can. I mean, you can put a link. I don't know how you're going to do this, but you can get onto my website, Nicole Heales Financial. You can get on my newsletter list. Well, if you contact me, I always put you on link. I always link in as well, because that's helpful. Get on my newsletter list. I've got an Instagram page and I've got a Facebook page as well. And what I do as my service offering is I offer a free consultation, like a free half an hour, just a Zoom meeting, just so you get to know me and I get to know you, and then I work out whether I can help you, and if it's not me, I can find you somebody else. So it's a no obligation, no cost. Because I don't want, I mean, as you know, you can only take on a certain amount of people. You want to make sure you're the right fit, and you want to make sure that you can give the value that people need. So there's all that. And even if it's not that, you just get free information. And my newsletters are really easy to read. Really easy to read. They're, and they focus on mortgage breaking, debt, financial planning, and all those things, and lifestyle. There's a lot of lifestyle stuff in there too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that. So I think there'll be a lot of people sort of wanting to learn in their own way, and where they reach out to actually start reading and learning themselves, which is
I mean, there's also on my website, there's I've got podcasts on my website. I've also got some animated videos on my website. I've got all my articles are up there, so that you can do a search on it and see what you need to look at, so that's all easy to see. And then obviously my contact details are there as well. So so I'm a big believer in education. So that's both my teachers were parents. I suppose that's sort of where that came from. But anyway, but I used to teach the first year financial planning students as well.
Right. Okay.
And I think our job is to educate and remove barriers, and also remove all the mystique around it, because money's not that complicated. People have made it complicated money can be as simple as you like, and the simpler it gets, the easier it is. And I think that's the main thing. So you're demystifying it a little bit.
Yes, yeah. I just want to thank you for your time. So I really appreciate, and we talked a lot about sort of money, different concepts, the joy and the freedom it should bring. So a bit about your background. So I enjoyed that, and your passion about serving women. So again, thank you for your time.
Oh, pleasure.
Great learnings from this. So I've learned.
Oh, good. Oh,
I'm
lovely.
sure a lot of our young women have learnt as well. So again, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure. And let's keep in contact, and we can have a chat later about how we can help each other's clients.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All the best, Nicole.
Fantastic. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.